This is Business Owners Drinking with Lawyer Humans. I'm your host, Shreya Lay, and I'm your lawyer human. I hope you pop a cold one, pour yourself something nice, and enjoy the show. Thanks.
Yes.
All right, so welcome to another episode of Business Owners Drinking with Lawyer Humans. We are drinking coffee at WeWork. My WeWork mug doesn't have it, but hers does. And it's because it's a beautiful, nice day, and Natalie here has a bunch of client meetings and can't be drinking beer in the middle of the day and then go off and help people exercise and with their nutrition and wellness. So, and I am appreciative because I have a full day ahead of myself as well. Yes. So Natalie is, if you have been receiving our paper newsletters, then you have seen her column in there. She is a nutrition and wellness coach and also a personal trainer.
Yep.
And you competed in teleskiing as a youth. Is that correct?
Cross-country skiing.
Cross-country skiing. Yes. But you are an avid skier in general.
Yes.
Okay.
Passion of mine for sure. Yes.
All right. Well, so, and if you have some other description of how you like to describe what you do, feel free to chime in.
I think you covered the big parts. Nutrition counseling is my main passion, but the health and wellness coach aspect really ties in the fact that I do a lot more than just, I don't believe in diets. It's not like prescribe a diet meal plan. So I really like to look at the person as a whole. So
I really loved, and I always come back to it. I mean, you have a lot of really great posts and tips on nutrition, but you had a chart up once of different body types and what you would need to do to maintain that body type, right? Yeah. Because people kind of in their heads think like, oh, I want to try for like a 6-pack, but it actually broke down like you would have to exercise this many, minutes per day, and you would only be able to eat desserts or cheat meals like X number of times per week and all of this stuff. And so it really put it into perspective. It's like, what are you really willing to sacrifice for that?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And whenever a client comes in, it's always like, I often hear like, okay, well, when I'm 10 pounds less, then I'll be happy. When I can do 10 pull-ups, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And so having that perspective of, oftentimes we have the experience, we lose the 10 pounds and we're still not happy.
Yeah.
And it's not really the 10 pounds that we want so much as the value or the life of that person. So we look at these people and we're like, well, that person must be healthy. They must never emotionally eat. They must have all of their food prepped and packed on Sundays. You never get a parking ticket. I mean, all of these things. And so instead of focusing on the external, like, okay, yes, the 6-pack, I focus with clients on the behaviors. So why don't we focus on defining what health is to you and achieving that? If it's okay, I want less stress, reduced emotional eating, focus on that, and then let the external results follow as they're intended to.
Yeah.
And from my experience, clients are really happy when day to day they're living consistent, healthy habits that they've defined for themselves. And the body will do the rest.
So do most people who do what you do work on their own, or do they work for larger organizations usually?
I find that they work on their own. So because I do more nutrition psychology, larger organizations will hire registered dietitians to come in and say do like weight loss plans or programs or prescriptions, so to speak. So maybe work for a hospital, work with diabetics, specific, okay, here is your meal plan to help your diabetes, etc. And then you have on the other end, you do have like maybe say an eating disorder clinic, which would have you'd be a psychologist and a registered dietitian. So somewhere in the middle, kind of like similar to what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I find that tend to be associated with the health and wellness centers maybe, but a lot of people more on their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you got into it, did you know, like, did you purposefully choose this path, so to speak, because you wanted to kind of be out on your own and be more entrepreneurial?
It's so funny you ask that, because if you had asked me 7-10 years ago if I would ever think of being a business owner, I'd have laughed and been like, are you kidding me? No way. I could never do that. And I started out in the healthcare corporate world, doing healthcare research and then healthcare communications consulting. And I wasn't feeling fulfilled or passionate. I wanted to help people on a more individual level. And I just got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to lose my mind. And I got my nutrition coaching degree more as something that I thought I could do outside of work to fulfill that like passion that was lacking, with the idea that maybe I'd do part-time corporate work and then work for a health and wellness center as a nutrition counselor, just a little bit. But then one day I just completely lost it at my corporate job. I mean, I was just more like inside my head. I was like, I can't, this is it. And I went to,
like beating up the copier, office.
It was total office space style. I was like, threw that thing out the window pretty much. And I went to this boot camp class I was doing at this little private studio. And I was just like totally venting about it to the poor owner. And he's like, well, we actually are looking for somebody to start a nutrition program. Are you willing to start? And I was like, when would you need me? And he's like, tomorrow. I was like, done. And I just took that leap. And from there, it kind of evolved. I decided after a year that his philosophy and mine weren't totally in line. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this on my own. And that was 5 years ago, just about.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So are you enjoying it?
I am. I love the flexibility and the autonomy, and everything that I do, it's because it goes and moves me closer towards like helping people in a greater capacity. There's definitely the challenges. Working for yourself is not easy. I think a lot of people are like, oh, you can work from home, you can like take a day off if you want to. And
they see the flexibility and they think that it's something that they desire, probably in somewhat similar way that people look at, certain people or body types and they're like, this is what I want.
Yeah, totally. People make assumptions. Make assumptions. And grass is always greener on the other side. I think the most challenging part of being your own boss is, well, a couple things. I mean, one, you have to keep yourself on task and you're creating the vision as it goes along. And it's like you have a baby and it's growing up and you're not quite sure. I mean, you understand how things grow, but
you're right.
Surprises get thrown at you, and
definitely.
Totally. And that whole thing about like, you have to fail 1,000 times before you succeed. It's, I think, learning to constantly reminding myself that there are no failures. It's like they're just learning opportunities, and it's you course correct and you do the best you can and you figure it out as you go along.
Yeah, I think one of my friends, he was talking about how he blogs he's actually the last guest that I had, how he blogs consistently along the way, partially to remember how difficult it was and be able to like pass that information along, because when you look back on it, you're like, oh yeah, no, I mean, things were great. Like you kind of gloss over it. But it is interesting how when you're in it, some days it's just like, things are awesome, everything's going right, and then a little thing will shift and you're like, oh no.
It's all gonna fall apart. I don't know if you experience this too, but especially being surrounded, once you're in an entrepreneurial role, you start to become surrounded. I mean, even here at WeWork, like surrounded by other entrepreneurs, and you still get I at least find myself comparing to be like, oh my God, that person has it like all together. How does their business is like growing so fast? And,
Right.
so I think continuing to remind myself that it's like we each have our own journey, and
Yes.
and that's even with nutrition. Like I constantly remind my clients that, or you know, we look at other people and other people's bodies. We make assumptions about their lifestyle or whatnot.
Yes.
And we're like, why isn't my body changing like theirs? Why is, whatever. And it's kind of the same thing. Like we all are unique.
Yeah.
Like learning to trust and listen to your body. I think when we place the labeling of good and bad on foods, we moralize it and then insert guilt into our experience with food. And food is often the most pleasurable part of our day. And it can be so delicious and a way to connect with people and all sorts of things. So yeah.
I'm on board with that. I like that.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No.
Reconnecting with your hunger cues and reconnecting with your body.
I think sometimes people overdo it as well, in some ways. At least, I know for me personally, I think I went through, I grew up in an Indian family, and it's all about like eating and like getting like the family gets together. And so I think as I was approaching 30, I realized I was like, maybe I should be paying more attention to what I'm eating and how often I'm eating it. Like maybe some more salads would not be a bad thing.
Yes. And that's intuitive, intuitive eating right there. That's another, it's interesting. People are often confused when I start talking about it. It's like, listen to what you want and what your body is telling you. People are often like, yes, I'm going to eat ice cream and pizza and eat until I'm like so full all the time, just like eat all the time. And that's not intuitive eating, right? Like if you really listen, your body is going to want salads. It's going to want the vegetables. Maybe at first it's hard to distinguish between like the inner toddler and like your intuitive stomach.
Right.
But yeah, definitely.
So do you have other people in your family that own their own businesses? Like did you have people to turn to or look up to within your family, or talk to about it? Or were they kind of surprised and didn't truly understand what you were going through when you decided to go out on your own?
No, I don't. I do and I don't. My dad's a doctor and he has his own practice.
Okay.
Which is his own business, but it's not the same. So really, no. When I first told I remember telling my parents, and they saw how miserable I was at my corporate job, and they really, they're like, okay, they got to the point where like, if this is going to make you happy, but at the same time, I think if there's like radio silence on the phone, I'm like, I'm going to work at a gym. Like, I'm leaving my corporate job and like paycheck, but they're always super supportive. I think they were a little bit concerned that I'd lost my mind, for sure. And then over the years, they've become just really supportive. Since I've left and started my own job, my older sister, who was in always advertising creative world, has left her job and started her own creative production business, and is super entrepreneurial and is now a consultant. So and she and I talk a lot. She has helped me so much with the creative branding behind my business, and we definitely help inspire each other. So I've been lucky to have her, but otherwise it's been a process of learning as I go.
Yeah. That's funny. I think my younger brother has seen sort of my journey as a business owner, and he's in medical school right now. He looked at me and he's like, I never want to own my own practice. Seems like a total pain in the ass. He's like, I'm gonna work for a hospital.
It can go either way.
So how did you go from competitive cross-country skier to nutritional psychologist? Kind of what was your path there?
Skiing was my life, and I loved it, super passionate, learned a lot, and became really fascinated with just the body and how can you make it, how does it adapt into pressure that you put it under and training. And that was going on while I was in college. And during college I got really into psychology and neuropsychology, because I was really fascinated with why do people do the things that they do, and the brain, and what happens when something in the brain goes wrong. And just delved more and more into that area of study. And it overlapped with fitness, especially more so as I got out of college, around people and their healthy habit and the health habits, because I started noticing people in my corporate job, people would be super stressed and they'd be stress eating, or people going out and just the diet culture and the diet mentality. And it just was all of these little pieces that were, the groundwork was being laid and the foundation. And when I entered into the corporate world, I was doing health research, neuroscience research, and working with Alzheimer's patients, and nutrition again came up a lot there. And then, and how I'm like going long story here.
No, it's fine. It's great.
And then in my next job, I was doing patient interviewing and patient advocacy work.
Okay.
And I guess it was at that point that I saw, like, I wanted to connect with people, and there's a lot, like a deeper, oftentimes I think in healthcare, we put a Band-Aid on the issue. So people have illnesses or struggling, and
as opposed to preventative side.
Preventative side of things.
Yeah.
And when it comes to health, people often want to do the right thing, or I'm working with patients and the doctors are telling them to make these healthy habits, and they're not doing it. And so here I am, like, working with the doctors, interviewing the patients, just on a totally separate in my corporate job. But I'm like, we're not addressing the issue. What is going on? Why aren't these people making the changes that they know they need to be making and that they want to be making? And so I really wanted to focus there and help people with habit change.
Okay.
And so I took all the little pieces of my passion and my education, and so when I work with clients, a lot of them know what to do. We've all read the books and whatever, but it's how do you do it?
Yeah.
How do you create sustainable change?
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds really fascinating, actually. And something that a lot of people could probably use in a lot of aspects of their lives.
And that's actually, when you say that, a lot of the work that I do blends, it will start talking about nutrition, but then the other aspects of your lives part totally comes in, because stress and life, like a client might be like, okay, well, I really want to, we're talking about food and cooking and prepping dinner ahead of time. But then it's like, but I'm so stressed at work and I get home late and I have a family, and how do I like navigate that the kids want something different than this? And so we end up talking a whole conversation about like work and stress and family, and maybe don't even touch on food for the next 20 minutes, but it is all
connected.
Related.
Yeah. So I guess my last question, which I usually ask people on the podcast about their musical tastes, and if they have certain preferences, like do you have pump up music, or let's say you were getting ready for a competition or something like that. Was there some kind of music you would particularly listen to, or
in the past or now?
Both. How about that?
Okay. Let's see here. Man, I have a very eclectic music taste. I discovered Spotify about 3 years ago,
I love Spotify.
That has like opened my world.
Yeah.
In the past, it was Sublime and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
How Californian of you.
Exactly. I know. The 90s and 2000s. Since then, being in Seattle, there's such great music out here. Guilty pleasure, Taylor Swift.
Okay.
I love her. I went to her concert.
Yeah.
I love Third Eye Blind, another guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Transcends time.
I think I still know all the words to Semi-Charmed Life. I'm pretty sure I could like bust that out if I wanted to.
It's ingrained in your brain. It's like its own special place in your memory system.
But lately I've been listening to podcasts a lot too when I run.
Yes, podcasts are great.
What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
This American Life.
Oh yeah,
is good. And I just started one, Something Sugar.
Oh, Pop Sugar?
Yeah. I think it's Pop Sugar.
Yeah.
Yes. I just started her. She has with Cheryl Strand.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So she has a few like series. It's all like relationships and whatnot. And I'm always fascinated with relationships. So like people like relational to each other. And so yeah, really good one.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to sit with me.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.